What's up? A to Z Sports Live on a Tuesday, talking some off-season trade potential because some superstars, plural or singular superstars, are on the trade block, and we'll discuss both of them this morning as Myles Garrett yesterday requests a trade from the Cleveland Browns, and Cooper Kupp is potentially being put on the trade block by the LA Rams. Not necessarily Cooper Kupp's decision, but that's the situation there in LA. So we'll discuss a couple of things. Sam, you went to work on a mock Myles Garrett trade proposal for the Titans and the Browns to get the future Hall of Fame edge rusher who has over 100 sacks in his first 8 years in the NFL. The I guess still reigning defensive player of the year until Thursday, when the NFL honors names the new defensive player of the year. And Cooper Kupp, who was a former Triple Crown winner, wide receiver who has been battling a few injuries, but still that guy when you need him to be that guy to help the Rams get the playoffs. So Sam will talk about both these guys and figure out if the Titans should have interest in either, both, one, the other, or whatever it looks like. But we'll get to it all. And also we'll throw some shade because it's Tuesday. That means we throw shade. And Sam, you have a pet peeve that you're going to throw shade at, which I'm curious about. So let's get this thing off and rolling here on a Tuesday morning.
All right. Hey, let's do it. Got a good show in store for everybody. Before we jump into everything on a Tuesday, make sure you like the show. That's step one. Hit that thumbs up button to help us out on Facebook, on YouTube, wherever you're watching. You can still hit the thumbs up. And if you're watching on Facebook, also hit share in the bottom right corner. Share the show, get it out on the timeline that A to Z Sports is live on YouTube. Take the YouTube link and send it to somebody. You can also repost us on Twitter X, hit that repost button and spread the word. So share the show, like the show. That's what you guys got to do before we jump into it here on a Tuesday morning.
Yep, let's get it going officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports here live on a Tuesday. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Sam Phelan, one of our Titans reporters for A to Z Sports.com. We're Nashville's on-demand sports.network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. Also, hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more great Titans content. Leave us that 5-star Google review. That always helps us out tremendously as a business overall. Got to thank our sponsors. They make it happen for us, and they help out all of you, like Wilson County Hyundai. Make Wilson County Hyundai a part of your new car buying process in Lebanon, online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. TDOT out there keeping our state beautiful, and you can join their campaign to find a solution to end littering at nobodytrashestennessee.com. And our friends at Bart Durham Injury Law. Crash can change your life forever. Help is just a click away at bartdurham.com. So Sam, yesterday on the show, we were talking about, Zach and I were talking about the Luka trade, and we talked a little AJ Brown, and I know you were glad to not be a part of that conversation, to not have your blood get boiling a little bit from that pre-show conversation. But I gave an NFL equivalent to the Luka AD trade, and I said that the Anthony Davis part of it could be Myles Garrett for a Luka Lamar Jackson, because it's in the division. It's a guy who's very good, but is not going to carry you to a title in Myles Garrett for a quarterback like Luka, like Lamar. So that was that. I don't want to get too deep into that. The irony of just that I said Myles Garrett in a trade conversation, and then like an hour after I said it, Myles Garrett goes out there and requests a trade publicly from the Browns, talking about how much he loves Northeast Ohio and how incredible the fan base is, and that's his home, but he wants to win. He loves calling the city his home. His desire to win and compete in the biggest stage won't allow him to be complacent. The goal was never to go from Cleveland to Canton, which is only about 20 minutes away from each other. It has always been to compete and win a Super Bowl. With that in mind, I have requested to be traded from the Cleveland Browns. And so, Sam, I'll let you kind of to give your initial reaction of when you saw the news, and really what you got busy doing yesterday morning when Myles Garrett's trade request from the Browns did become public.
Yeah, I mean, so when you see news like this, right, the understanding Myles Garrett wants to go somewhere to win a Super Bowl. I will say, I don't think he clarified necessarily like, oh, it has to be a team that's contending right now, as much as it might just be a change of scenery out of Cleveland to a different organization that he might feel better about the future of. I don't think that's out of the question that Myles Garrett could go to a younger team that seems to have a really bright future and is closer versus where the Browns are at right now is a team that's older and bad and getting ready to start the very first process, like the very beginning of the rebuilding process, trying to figure out what they can do there. So I will say that. But Myles Garrett, yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying, the Browns are just in the most awkward, I mean, for many reasons, the most awkward quarterback spot in the entire NFL when you feel like you're stuck with Deshaun Watson's contract, or it's going to cost you a lot against the salary cap to move on from Deshaun Watson. And Deshaun Watson is a broken quarterback and has been for the last couple of years. On top of now, I think it really flew under the radar that Deshaun Watson retore his Achilles.
Mm.
That was during
not being talked about at all.
Yeah, during the holidays, it was like, oh, by the way, Deshaun Watson retore it. He had surgery and then he retore it while training, which restarts that clock and makes you even feel less confident about Deshaun Watson doing anything productive as a quarterback in the NFL. So, the Browns are in a weird spot. So I think that has a lot to do with Myles Garrett wanting to get the heck out of there too.
Yeah. So, would he like to go to the Chiefs? Yeah, probably, right? But do I think Myles Garrett is requiring a team that's on the verge of winning a Super Bowl right now? Also, no, I don't think that. And I don't think he really gets a say in the matter. If you're requesting to be traded at the stage in his career that he's at right now, he doesn't have a no trade clause. He doesn't have power over that sort of a thing. So the Browns could trade him hypothetically wherever. Now, why do the Titans come up? Well, it's really just a natural on paper fit partnership between the Titans and the Browns. You look at Tennessee, that needs edge rushers, that needs premium talent, that needs superstars. The Titans look at their roster, they don't have enough superstars, and they especially don't have them at premium positions. Myles Garrett is that. And then the Titans have draft capital, and they have high-end draft capital in the number 1 overall pick. So depending on what's going on behind the scenes, depending how the Cleveland Browns feel about the quarterbacks in this year's draft class, their likelihood of taking a quarterback in this year's class, and maybe they only like one of the quarterbacks in this year's class, there could be some interest from Cleveland in moving up one spot to number 1. So it is a partnership of that number 1 overall pick and the Titans' need for an edge rusher, while Myles Garrett is requesting a trade and the Browns are looking to rebuild and solve their QB problem, that you can then start to draw a line, a pretty direct line between Titans, Myles Garrett. We'll get in this show here about number 1, what it would cost the Titans, and number 2, how realistic this actually would be to have happen. But I think that is how this conversation sort of came to be. And I would also like to say, Austin, we are not the only ones that are having this conversation. Within 2 minutes of Myles Garrett's trade request, I gave you a phone call, and you took to Twitter, scrolled Twitter a little bit, and it was everybody bringing up Mike Borgonzi and the Titans as the first team that came to mind when it comes to Myles Garrett.
Yeah, for sure. It does make a lot of sense for all the things you said. And I do think there are a lot of other teams out there that make a lot of sense, because I also saw articles go up on A2ZSports.com that are not Titans related articles about, hey, the Packers could be a good fit.
I mean, a lot of
yeah.
Right?
Yes.
He's the reigning or all reigning defensive player of the year, just 1 year removed. There's a lot of teams that would have interest in that guy when he's 29 years old.
So I think the most interesting thing about this is when you call and you're like, hey, what's this plan here, right? I was like, I don't even know how this trade would work. What is Myles Garrett's currency value in a draft trade that involves the number 1 overall pick when the Browns had the 2nd overall pick? And so we really had to bring the trade calculators out. So let's kind of go through the mock trade, Sam, that you concocted to figure out what that looks like.
Well, let me start here by saying, so like we did ask those questions, right? What would this look like? What is the value of Myles Garrett? Now, all things considered, right? Myles Garrett, reigning defensive player of the year from 2023, one of the better pass rushers in the sport, unquestionably.
Yeah.
102 and a half sacks in an 8-year NFL career, just turned 29 years old recently, has 2 more years left on his contract. So you'd either be getting him for 2 years or, come and, extend him in some capacity. Juan wanted to know, is he worth a 1 at his age? He is only 29 years old, which for an edge rusher still gives him, you would think, 2 or 3 years at least of like pretty elite production.
And let's look at the games that he's played in. He played in all 17 games this past year. The last 2 years before that, 16, 16, then 17, then 14. So he's played and he's only missed a combined 4 games in the last 5 seasons.
He had just as many sacks this season, more tackles this season, and more tackles for loss this season than he did in 2023 when he won Defensive Player of the Year. I don't think he'll win it this year, right? I mean, like he's probably not the favorite for it this year, but he's going to be in the conversation every year, pretty much. He was the defensive 5th place in 2022 when he had 16 sacks. Won it last year. He's a 4-time All-Pro, which includes this year he was a first-team All-Pro. So he has not dropped off by any means in his career. So is he worth a 1? Yes, he is worth a 1. Now, how many ones, right? Like that was really the question. Diana Rossini came out with a tweet that I thought was really helpful to kind of contextualize this for us yesterday when we were trying to figure out what exactly Myles Garrett was worth. After she quote tweeted her own tweet about Myles Garrett requesting a trade and said, quote from Diana, "One NFL GM on what a trade for Myles Garrett could look like." So this is a GM texting Diana Rossini about a Myles Garrett trade. Quote, "Probably a 1+. Can't wait for the it will be 3 1s crowd. Not happening. 1 and a 2, 1 and 2 3s, throw a player in there." So it's not all the way to being 3 first-round picks that you're going to get for Myles Garrett, but it is going to be more. He's worth more than just your first rounder, right? You're not going to see the Green Bay Packers give their first rounder in the 2025 draft and land Myles Garrett. It's going to be more expensive than that. And then, we started talking a little bit, and really, Austin, the comparable trade for everybody is the deal that happened with the Chicago Bears and the Oakland Raiders back in 2018 for Khalil Mack. That seems to be a really good frame of reference because if you'll remember, Khalil Mack won NFL Defensive Player of the Year and was a first-team All-Pro in 2016. He then had a double-digit sack season, had a very good year, was selected to the Pro Bowl again in 2017. He had been healthy and played in every game in all of the first 4 years of his career, but Khalil Mack was 2 years younger, so probably slightly less dominant than Myles Garrett. Close, but very slightly less dominant, but also 2 years younger when he was dealt. Now, the trade value for the Bears was knocked down a little bit because the Bears had to pay Khalil Mack immediately.
Yeah.
So that it was slightly different. Now, what did the Bears give up? Well, the trade between the Bears and the Raiders was 2 first-round picks, a 3rd-round pick, and a 6th-round pick for Mack, a 2nd, and a 5. So the Bears traded a 6, got back a 5. The Bears traded a 3, got back a 2. They upgraded in both of those rounds. They traded 2 firsts and got Mack. So Mack's value is somewhere in between 1 first and 2 first, depending on how you value those other things. So that is what we were working off of. And that is the trade value that led to I don't know if you want to go ahead and do a sponsor
Yeah.
at this point, because I've rambled for a bit.
No, it's good. It's good. So like, yeah, Sam has a visual for his mock draft or mock trade. Oh, God, mock draft just flows in my mouth way too easily. Mock trade for Myles Garrett here on the show. So we'll get to that here in a second. Sam's mock trade for Myles Garrett. By the way, Patricia and others said Myles isn't coming here. It would be a lateral move. He wants to go to a contender. Also of note, Myles Garrett doesn't have a no trade clause. So
yeah, he doesn't get to say. I mean,
yeah,
Myles Garrett, he can say, I don't want to sign an extension there, but he does have 2 more years on his contract. So
yes. Myles Garrett will be traded wherever the Browns find the right fit for. So just wanted to throw that out there. We'll get to that here in a second, but first telling you guys about our great friends at Bart Durham Injury Law. Crash can change your life forever, and the Bart Durham team is here to make that a lot easier on you, because you're at a lot of things you're dealing with if you get into a big truck wreck or any car accident. But that is Bart Durham's fight for justice. You can reach the Bart Durham team 24/7 to get your legal questions answered. Their phone number is just about as easy as it comes, 615-242-9000. You can also go to their website, bartdurham.com, for a live chat or a contact tab. They also have current news and blogs at the website, bartdurham.com. Attorneys are available to meet with you whenever is most convenient. That includes a virtual meeting. You deserve to be paid for everything you go through with a big truck wreck or any type of car accident, and Bart Durham Injury Law is there for you. They've been doing business in the Nashville, Tennessee area since 1975, led by the legendary Nashvilleian Bart Durham, who passed just about a year ago, and his son, Marine veteran Blair Durham, also a legendary Nashvilleian, doing a lot of great things in our community as well. So check them out online. If you need them, you got them right there in your back pocket for you at bartdurham.com.
All right. Reminder to everybody out there, like the show. Okay. Like the show. We're talking trade. Some of you are, in the loony bin a little bit because you're not paying attention. You need to get the potatoes out of your ears and go back about 10 minutes and rewatch the show with clean teeth. Go to Walgreens, get some Q-tips, clean out your ears so that you're actually listening and rewatch the show and then re-like the show. Okay.
Technically, you're not supposed to use Q-tips in your ears.
I do about 4 times a day. Okay. So
4 times a day.
Something like that. Yeah, it's pretty bad for me. Now, go do it though. Clean out your ears because you guys aren't listening in the chat. Anyways.
Okay. What are people not listening to? Is it people saying that, is it this comment from American Tops? It looks like Sam is drinking motor oil and it's affecting his brain and thinking 3 first-rounders for Garrett's a good trade. Is that the one?
Somebody hasn't watched the show yet. So we'll wait for American Top to catch up to the show, to watch the show. Let me know when you watch the show, brother.
Okay. All right. So here is this mock trade proposal. Sam, I'll let you as the author of this mock trade kind of dive through it all and tell us why the value makes sense.
Yeah, here we go. The Titans trade the number 1 overall pick. They get back Myles Garrett and the number 2 overall pick. They also receive a 6th rounder in this year's draft, number 202, while giving up a 2nd rounder, number 35, and a 4th rounder, number 102 in this year's draft.
Mm-hmm.
Titans trade 2 of their earlier picks in this year's draft to trade back and go to 202. And then they give up their 2026 first rounder for a 2026 4th. Now, this is the trade value that I put together, and the mock trade that I put together as a realistic, you might not like it, but realistic trade for Myles Garrett as what it will cost you. This is using the Fitzgerald Spielberger point system in Austin, UC.
Yeah. That
category called points right there. Well, that is the point value that is associated with certain draft picks by using some of these value trade grading systems, which, by the way, are not inconsequential. By no means are they perfect, but most front offices use some form of this this calculator to assess what a trade could possibly look like. So this is one particular point system, and you see where the first overall pick, 35th overall pick, 102nd pick, next year's first is pick, where those things are valued. In this trade, the Titans are giving up about 2,600 points of extra value to the Browns that they are not getting back. Well, that 2,600 points can very simply be attributed to Myles Garrett. What is 2,600 points? Well, it's about the value of the number 2 overall pick in any given draft class, or the 16th and 48th overall pick in any given draft class. So it's the combined value of 16 and 48, or just number 2. 16 and 48 is a mid-value 1 and a mid-value 2. What did we just talk about with Diana Rossini? The value is probably a 1 and a 2. Okay, so that's what Myles Garrett by himself is worth, a 1 and a 2. So all of these picks make the difference in this trade about a 1 and a 2, where you are the Titans and you're essentially only giving up one first rounder here. You're giving up a 1 and a 2 and a 4, and you're getting back a 6, a 4, and Myles Garrett. That's it.
Because the swap from 1 to 2 is very inconsequential.
It's
right?
very inconsequential for what you're doing if you're the Titans. And so what you do here, right? What is the benefit? And I know that, that the chat is a little bit, this is outrage, but this is, by the way, if you are a Titans fan, I'm going to go ahead and say this right now because I know this fan base well, and I know sports fans well. If you're a Titans fan out there and you see a mock draft trade proposal where you're like, ooh, yeah, give me that. It's not realistic.
If that's your initial reaction.
If your reaction is, oh, I like that, the Titans aren't giving up enough. The Titans aren't giving up enough. Myles Garrett's expensive. He's a defensive player of the year. He's a top 3 defensive player in the sport at age 29 in the peak of his prime. He's going to be expensive, right? So
he's also a former number 1 overall pick who has played himself into being a future Hall of Famer. So I want to get more reaction on this. Go ahead.
Well, yeah. Well, real quick, let me make the case before people weigh it out, right? The benefit to the Browns is pretty clear. You get to go up. You use Myles Garrett's he wants a trade, right? So you no longer have to pay Myles Garrett. You get to go from number 2 to number 1 and get your free choice of quarterback. You get to go and add the 35th overall pick, which now gives you 3 selections in the first 35 picks of this year's draft. And you get a 1 next year. This can really spark a Browns rebuild in a big way. Now, what is the benefit if you're the Titans? Well, as you mentioned, Austin, the jump from 1 to 2 is rather inconsequential here. Mm-hmm. If you're the Titans and you decide, hey, we don't want to go ahead and we don't want to draft a quarterback, you trade back to 2. I mean, heck, you could still draft a quarterback. You could still draft Shedeur Sanders at 2 overall, but you could also trade back to 2 overall and get Abdul Carter. But you are turning the number 1 overall pick into 2 elite players at premium positions. You are taking a chance that next year's first is not going to be as valuable as Myles Garrett will be to your team moving forward, which honestly, there is about a 98% chance that that's the case, right? Like the player that you get with next year's first is probably not going to be as good as Myles Garrett, almost guaranteed, because he's a future Hall of Famer. Yeah. So you are taking your pick, you are turning it into, hey, we've got a need. We're starved for superstars. We've got Jeff Simmons, and maybe the Titans believe that Snead is a superstar, that he's a game-changing player. Maybe they believe J.C. Latham is a star and he's a game-changing player, but they're starved for stars at these premium positions. Well, you can go add a quarterback and an edge rusher. You can go add 2 edge rushers. Your defense now is L'Jarius Snead, Abdul Carter, Myles Garrett, Jeffrey Simmons. Holy cow. So that is the benefit for the Titans. If there was a case to be made for why this is a good deal, it's that the guys that you're getting at 35 or 102 are not as impactful as Myles Garrett will be, and you still get a chance to pick in the top 2 of the draft.
Yeah. A comment I want to get to here is real quick, and then I got another caveat to what this could do for the Titans. Ocho says Titans need to get younger, built to the draft, stop signing washed / pre-washed veterans. There is nothing washed about Myles Garrett or pre-washed about Myles Garrett.
Yeah. I mean, I think people just know the name because he's been around for a little bit. And it's like, oh no, trading picks for another washed up player.
No. Like he's literally going to be a finalist on Thursday night for the Defensive Player of the Year, the same award that he won last year. So there's nothing washed or pre-washed about Myles Garrett. Here's the other thing too that I thought. The great thing about the Titans earning the number 1 overall pick with the Patriots winning that game in week 17 is week 18 is that they have control. They get control of the draft being the top team. If they trade back from 1 to 2, the Browns are coming up to get one person. Then guess who's back on the clock? The Titans, who are still in control of the draft.
You could do it again.
You could trade back again, because my biggest concern about this trade, Sam, and I get you had to make the points make sense, is the fact that the Titans are they're getting Myles Garrett, but they're also giving up their 2nd round pick and their 4th round pick, meaning they don't have another selection to like
which is their 3rd pick in the draft. No, hey, there are drawbacks to this deal, no doubt. But I'm making the case for why it would make sense, right? I think any trade that comes out balanced like this one is you're going to have a negative for both sides and you're going to have a positive for both sides. And it's up to the front offices to weigh those.
So now you're talking about getting Myles Garrett, trading back to 2, and then now let's just say 1 quarterback's gone. There's 1 quarterback left. That's supply and demand. There are more teams that would want a quarterback that are teams available to less quarterbacks available, right? So let's just say Cam Ward goes number 1, and you've got Shedeur sitting there at number 2, and the Giants are at 3. Somebody thinks the Giants are taking the quarterback at 3. You can trade right back down to 6 with the Raiders, 7 for the Jets, or whoever the hell. And then now you're picking up more picks to fill back in, like maybe you're another 3rd rounder, or you're filling the gap between of what you lost with the Myles Garrett trade. So I think that there's something that's an option overall that you can trade back again. I think that would be something that would be a value of the Titans if that happens. So let's go ahead and ask this question. How would you grade this trade? How would you grade this Myles Garrett mock trade proposal to the Titans? We want letter grades overall. So basically, and I don't even know, like, what would be a letter grade that you would say, yeah, I'd do that, that's something that we can all
that's
individually.
Call, right? Like,
that's a personal decision, I feel like, is what grade does it have to be for you to say, yeah, I'd do that. So what's your grade on this Myles Garrett trade? Once again, I'll go through it again just for the people that jumped in. And by the way, reminder, Myles Garrett does not have a no trade clause. So even though he says he wants to win a Super Bowl or contend for a Super Bowl, the Browns will trade him to whatever the Browns feel like is their best offer in their best situation. So the Titans trade away number 1 overall, 35 overall, and 102 this year, and a next year's first for Myles Garrett, number 2 overall, the 6th round pick this year, and a future 4th round pick. That's where the math works out overall right there. The Titans would then get Myles Garrett to go along with the 2nd overall pick for a chance they have 2 players, elite players at premier positions. So Sam, to the chat you go. What are people saying about the grade for this trade proposal?
D-, C, D, C, C, D, C-, D, B- if we draft a QB with the 2nd pick. B from Rashid, F from Roy, F from Christian, D-, C-, B-, C+, A+, depending on how Borgonzi plays this. It's not bad. I just don't want it, says Curtis. B-, D from Eric, F from Vanessa, C, F, C, B+, getting elite edge and still can get a QB. C+ from Frank. We got an F from Brent, C from Landon, F from Zach, F, too much for one player. We got an F- from Raz. We got a C- from Demetrius, a D from Patrika, F from Cole.
Real quick. So Nick says, so the Titans are giving up 2 first? Hell no.
They're also getting a first.
Yeah, right. So they're minus 1 first-round pick.
I think if you look at the value of this deal, we can pull it up again.
Yeah.
If you look at remove anything in this trade that's not a first rounder, okay? But let's just look at the Titans' first overall pick, the Titans' 2026 first, and then the second overall pick, and Myles Garrett, right? If this was a 2 for 2 and it was those 2 things, the Titans would be winning that trade in a blowout. Myles Garrett and the second overall pick is worth way more than next year's first and the number 1 overall pick. Myles Garrett is way more valuable than your pick next year. Okay. So that is where the difference is, because you're getting you're dropping back 1 spot in the draft and then picking up Myles Garrett for next year's first rounder. So then you, of course, are going to have to add a little bit of draft capital on top of it, which is why the Titans are trading a 2nd and a 4th for a 4th and a 6th in this deal.
Chris Jump says, the Titans mess up so many first-round picks. I don't see how it hurts. And then somebody said, why don't you just draft Abdul Carter instead? Like, you could do both.
I mean,
James Michael, you can have both.
2 edge rushers can play at the same time.
You have to have them playing at the same time.
And yeah, opinion. Like that is what the trade opens up, is the possibility to do both, right? You can draft Abdul Carter, but you could also trade for Myles Garrett and draft Abdul Carter, or whatever you'd like. So anyway,
Sam,
what's your grade?
Oh, you want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first, because everybody was all poo-poo on my deal.
All right, so I did put up a poll on YouTube that we can get to. I said A range, B range, C range, D range. So we'll get to that as that matures a whole bit.
Everybody's saying then trade Landry. By the way, Landry does not have trade value. He's going to be cut.
Yeah, trade. I feel pretty confident saying that Harold Landry will be released.
Be cut in the offseason and sign a. Yeah, he will not be a Titan next year, but he does not have trade value.
Yep. How would I grade this? I have to make a decision here because I don't want to be a tweener. I have to decide whether I think this is a B- option or a C+ option. And I think I'm going to land on a C+ option because I don't think the Titans are ready to make this move overall. I think if the Titans, it's hard because they have the number 1 pick and you're talking about getting the 2nd overall pick and still having control like that I said. I just think that I just don't think it's the smartest thing to do. I think it's too aggressive for where they are currently at. I do think it's a fair deal between the Browns and the Titans. I just think the Titans would be too aggressive here. I think there's value in adding Myles Garrett because of the leadership and experience and the stability that he would add inside the locker room to help a lot of young guys. But when I hear Chad Brinker on 104.5 The Zone talking about like they want 12 picks in the top 100 over the next 3 years, then this is the anti that. And so I think so I'm going to settle on C+, which means that my YouTube poll vote that just has A range, B range, C range, or D through F, I have to answer the C range as a C+ instead of a B-. So C+.
I'm going with an A. Now, I don't know if that means that I would take the trade. I don't know if that means that I would like do the deal, but I'm grading based on the fact that I think it's an awesome proposal. I think it's a fair proposal. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think there's benefits and drawbacks for both teams. I think depending on your approach, which, right, this is the question at hand. Let me put it this way. Ran Carthon makes this trade. Mike Borgonzi does not.
Yeah.
Like the Titans, are clearly in this draft and develop stage. They made that very clear, okay? When you're in the draft and develop stage, you're not, number one, in the business of acquiring veteran players, really, in general. I don't think they're going to do much of anything in free agency outside of grabbing a bench guy here and, a depth guy here, a bench guy here, kind of a thing, just supplement. They're going to try and get young. They're going to try and get cheap. That's what they're going to do. That's what they believe will lead to sustained success. So it's not going to be an easy, quick turnaround. It's going to be more of a long-term project to build the Titans back into a contender. That's the goal. Ran Carthon as the GM, he was always aggressive, right? He would go out and get DeAndre Hopkins. He would go out and sign Ridley and get Snead. Ran loved going after it and trying to compete year after year after year.
Yeah.
I think there is a really logical reason for the Titans to make this trade. Like, if you are somebody who just believes, which I tend to be one of those people, that star players matter more than draft picks, then this makes all the sense in the world. Like, I don't believe in the value of the 35th or the 35th overall pick or a 2025 fourth pick 102 when you can add 2 shoe-in star players at a premium position to your roster. If you can sit there with Abdul Carter and Myles Garrett on your roster, you have solved the biggest problem on your defense right now.
But not the biggest problem in your franchise.
Well, I mean, you don't make this trade if you think – I mean, I guess if you think one of the quarterbacks is the answer, you could always trade back to 2 and still grab the quarterback.
Yeah, right. So that's what I wanted to get to next.
My point is, do I do this trade? Probably not, because I agree with you. It's aggressive for where the Titans are at. The Titans are not close enough to competing, nor do they – and I would actually feel differently about this if I felt like the Titans were in a spot that they were motivated to spend money. If they were in a spot where they were like, all right, we need some edge rushers, we need a quarterback, we need a right tackle, and we got a lot of cap space, like let's go let it fly, then I'm saying hammer this trade. Draft your quarterback, right? Draft Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward at 2 overall. Get Myles Garrett in the trade. Maybe you try to trade another asset and get a pick on day 2 just so that you can add another rookie to your team, but then you're going to sign a right tackle and you're going to try and make the playoffs. Then I think it makes more sense. I don't think that's where they are as an organization. Yeah. I don't think it's where they should be as an organization. So I'm grading it as an A because I think it's
You think it's an acceptable trade?
I think
for
it's
both sides.
Trade, and I think it's a realistic trade.
Okay.
And I think we are guilty of always proposing trades that don't make actual sense in terms of value. And as much as it might hate people to look at, this is a realistic trade. So that's why I graded it as an A. Should the Titans take it? No.
Okay. And so I think it's very obvious and very clear to everybody watching, because people thinking that Sam's Q-tips are getting to his brain. Sam is saying would not accept it.
Would not accept it. Would not trade for Myles Garrett. Does not make sense for the Titans at all.
This
is where they are.
Right. But like going off of the trade in a vacuum, it's a good trade proposal for both sides. And Troy says nobody's giving up 2 first rounds for a 29-year-old player. You're not. You're giving up 1 and you're swapping 1 pick where you still have control of the draft. I think that is because now I want to go to this. Let's just say this is the move. What do the Titans do with a 2nd overall pick? Because, do you want to double down with Abdul Carter and Myles Garrett on the outside, or do you want to go with whichever quarterback is left over? I think that's an interesting discussion that we can have. But real quick, let's tell everybody about the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Whenever you get hurt in life, just like in football, you have to know where you can turn to and who you can trust to get you back off the sidelines and onto the playing field with that injury. And I've used the Bone and Joint Institute the last couple of years with a knee tendonitis situation, plantar fasciitis. I've not had any problems with my knee or my foot since I got those things checked out and learned about how to manage at home those injuries. They can do the same thing for you. They're right off of I-65 and Highway 96 next door to Williamson Medical Center. So it's really convenient to get there in a hurry if you need them to in an emergency situation. But they've also got the hospital right next door that they're partners with as well. So check them out online. Book an appointment if you need them, when you need them. boneandjointtn.org.
All right. I got to talk to all of you. Listen up here. Okay. I'm going to need you to do something after the show. Heck, you can do it right now while you're watching the show. If you're watching on YouTube. All right. If you're watching on YouTube, go and look down and just make sure that you're subscribed to A to Z Sports. You can check. It's real easy. Click of a button, but hit subscribe, right? We just passed 20,000 subscribers, but we need to keep pumping. We need to keep pushing with the Titans having the first overall pick in the draft. If you don't subscribe to A to Z Sports on YouTube, how are you going to make fun of me every time I come up with a trade proposal you don't like? How are you going to watch the show but not actually listen to the show, right? You like to do this every day. If you want to do this every day, if you want to half listen and then interact, you're going to have to hit subscribe. So subscribe to the YouTube. That's the goal on this Tuesday.
Love it. All right. So, Sam, officially, the numbers on the YouTube poll for how do you grade this trade, you are in the group of 7% of people that think it's in the A range. And then the percentage grows.
The small but mighty.
The percentage grows the lower the grade. So B range, 27%. I'm in the C range at 32%. And D through F is at 34%. So there you go. That's that. So if the Titans make this move, and let's just say they get Myles Garrett, I think regardless of the other things that are involved in the trade, if the Titans do gain Myles Garrett in a trade, they're probably going to get that number 2 pick from the Browns. I just feel like that's like a guaranteed factor, right? So what would you do if you had the second pick and Myles Garrett if you're the Titans, knowing the Browns are going to take one of the quarterbacks? And I'm game for you to go through, like, if the Browns take Cam Ward, I would take blank. If the Browns take Shador, I would take blank. Like, what should the Titans do with a second pick with Myles Garrett with the Browns ahead of them?
This is tough because it depends what you've done in free agency, right? Like, it depends.
Which comes before, the chicken and the egg thing.
Like, have you gotten a quarterback in free agency? Have you found a veteran, right? Have you I don't know, Derek Carr, Sam Darnold, Matt Stafford.
We'll talk about that tomorrow. That's big day
tomorrow. I will talk about it on A to Z Sports Primetime. Buck will be on Primetime tonight, but I will be on Primetime on Wednesday night this week, where I talk about it, and you and Easton are going to talk about this topic tomorrow morning. So if you can find a veteran quarterback, like, I love the idea of Abdul Carter coming in and working with Myles Garrett and learning from Myles Garrett. Jeffrey Simmons, Tavondre Sweat, Myles Garrett, and Abdul Carter as your defensive front. I mean, that is starting to be reminiscent of these NFL teams that you see compete for Super Bowls because their defense is just so damn good.
Yeah.
And, like, is a healthy Cheeto Awuzie, healthy L'Jarius Sneed with Roger McCreary and that defensive front, like, is that defense, if that defense can stay on the field, you're talking about.
I would be compelled to just have that defense and run Tony Pollard and Tajay Spear Wildcat for 17 games because you turn the ball over less than Will Levis did last.
It's just one of those situations, and similar to what we were talking about earlier, those 2018 Bears that added Khalil Mack. I remember watching that Bears team, and it was the first time in my life, and it was very fascinating that I was excited when the Bears didn't have the football and kind of like, when they had the ball. It's like, hopefully we kick a field goal or maybe score a touchdown here.
Who was the Bears quarterback?
It was Mitch Trubisky, and he made the Pro Bowl that year.
That was his second year, right?
Second year, he had a very good year, and they had some offensive pieces. It was Trubisky with Tariq Cohen was the Allen Robinson, but that defense. Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks, Roquan Smith, Eddie Jackson, like Kyle Fuller and Prince Amukamara. It was just you watch that group play football and you were just amped up. I think they led the NFL in turnovers. I think they had 9 defensive touchdowns that year. I would watch these games. I remember watching a primetime game, Bears and Rams, and the Rams went to the Super Bowl that year, by the way. But the Rams with Jared Goff rolled into Chicago, and they turned Jared Goff over like 6 times in the game. And it was just like, I look forward more to watching this team play defense than offense, which is not a normal experience for a fan. That's what you would be looking at with the Titans here, where you'd be like, God, I can't wait to watch Jeff and Garrett and Carter rush the
just
pass.
rip heads off.
It would just be fun to just be like, yep, let's see if we can. And like Denard Wilson, just bring the blitz every single time.
Blitz. Not the blitz. You have a built-in blitz. You're blitzing with 4.
But not blitz. What I mean by that is like you tell your guys down there with 4 to just like it's just like a pin your ears back. Yeah, every single snap.
Blow it up.
Go kill him. Like we might give up some plays because we are selling out to get the passer, but we're also going to hit the quarterback like twice a possession and probably force a turnover at some point.
No, for sure. So you would go Abdul Carter if the Titans decide.
I think so. I mean, especially if Shedeur Sanders is taken first overall, I think I would go with Abdul Carter.
Man, this is tough because like it's February 4th. I don't have a gut feeling on one quarterback or the other for the Titans at this point. I don't know which. It's too early. They haven't even met Cam Ward.
I mean, gut feeling as in what you prefer or what they prefer?
Oh, what I think they would prefer.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote an article.
Which yesterday. I also don't even know who I would prefer at this point.
I mean, I wrote an article yesterday on A to Z Sports that was basically addressing the truth about the Titans quarterback situation, which is they don't know yet, right? And I kind of go into detail about that, sharing some of the rumors that have been online. But if you're a Titans fan out there and you're seeing the Titans really want to take Cam Ward or the Titans think Shedeur Sanders is Joe Burrow, they're going to draft him, that person doesn't know what they're talking about. They're spreading misinformation. The Titans haven't met Cam Ward yet. They've never seen Shedeur Sanders throw in person. Like
they've talked to him in a ballroom.
They've talked to him for 20 minutes in a quick thing at the Shrine Bowl. You know, like they're in the infancy stages of the evaluation process. So don't believe any of that. I have my opinion, right? Like I've been on the show. I believe Shedeur Sanders is a better fit for the Titans offense than Cam Ward.
I think it's like a floor versus ceiling situation. But like, I don't think you should only pick on like who has the higher floor. Like, you know, I think it's, it should be more complicated.
I mean, I can go into detail again about it at another time. I'm sure I will. I'm going to remain pretty firm in my belief that like my preference is Shedeur Sanders. That's what I want the Titans to do if they do quarterback in the draft. However, I don't know how they actually feel. My guess would be when Brian Callahan really dives into both players, watches the tape and sees them throw, that he will want Shedeur Sanders over Cam Ward. That's just me speculating off of what I think Brian Callahan values, but nobody knows at this point.
Yeah. So and that's where like I am very intrigued by the Abdul Carter pairing with Myles Garrett. That is very, very, very exciting to think about. But I don't know what the quarterback pairing is. So I think for this particular answer, that is where I would go just because of the novelty.
I mean, it's just fun to think about, like, bring back Mason Rudolph as your starter and hand it off.
I mean, because it's almost like it's a crazier example of when we talked about when Dion was in the running potentially be the Cowboys coach. And it was like, oh, Micah Parsons, and you get the 12th pick to take like the Georgia Michael Williams or James Pierce at 12.
Give me go sign Justin Fields. Go sign Justin Fields and then just run like an option offense with Pollard and Justin Fields, and then just play
backyard football for a year.
Just win 10 let's win 9-6 football games. That's like, I don't know, something about that would kind of be fun.
And now
I'm not saying Mason Rudolph is your starter. Like seriously, I'm saying
I think if you acquire Myles Garrett, you have to consider Mason Rudolph is on the team or not.
Well, I'm saying it. Oh, good point. Didn't think about that one. I'm just saying if
Mason Rudolph is also a free agent, by the way, too.
I'm just saying if you get a defense like this, I can be happy watching the 2025 Titans. I don't even care who's at quarterback. That's my point. Is that if your defense is this stacked, hey, I'll chill. So
there you go.
I don't think they should actually go get Justin Fields. I'm just thinking it would be hilarious to just watch them like run a Navy triple option offense.
That's what I'm saying.
With Tony Pollard and Justin Fields, and Tajay, and they just run for like 25 to 3,000 yards as a team, and and then just play great defense. So, anyways, we can move on.
Wow, why'd you even fire Mike Vrabel then? Joking. All right, so let's go ahead and get to this next thing because Cooper Kupp is also in the trade market. Not his decision, but he is out there on the trade market. We'll get to that because I think Cooper Kupp, a cheaper trade. This is you have to give up a lot less for Myles Garrett. So we'll talk about Cooper Kupp here in a moment. But first, T-Dot's out there trying to do great things across our state by keeping our state beautiful and trying to find a solution to the littering problem that we have in Tennessee. That's what the campaign NobodyTrashesTennessee.com. That's NobodyTrashesTennessee.com. There's 80 million pieces of litter on the roadways every year. T-Dot is trying to go out there and rally the community, use the resources that we have to make sure we can clean up this litter, change habits, and keep our state beautiful because it is a beautiful state with the rolling hills and everything that Tennessee has to offer. So if you want to get involved in your community, maybe your kids looking for volunteer experience as the spring gets closer and closer, go to NobodyTrashesTennessee.com to find out how you can get involved at NobodyTrashesTennessee.com.
Don't forget to leave a Google review. Give us a 5-star Google review. That helps out A to Z Sports tremendously. So if you are a regular to the show, if you like watching us talk ball, talk nonsense, somewhere in between usually, go ahead, go to Google, leave a 5-star review. It really helps us out. So that would be just a reminder for you guys here today that if you like the show, go and leave a review.
At the current moment, A range for the Myles Garrett mock trade, 7%. B, C, and D through F. All three of those options are even 31% across the board. So the same amount of people say B that said D through F and that said C. So that's a wild poll right there.
That means it's a good trade. That means credit to Sam.
That means credit. That means more people should be voting A because of how even it is. And
that means people hate it and people like it. And that means it's usually a fair deal.
Yep. Interesting the way we just decided to do that. So, all right. So Cooper Kupp is on the trade market. He is currently 31 years old. He's played 7 years in the NFL. He was the Triple Crown winner in the NFL in 2021, but the Rams are looking to move him. Cooper Kupp doesn't want to leave the Rams. But Sam, this guy would be a lot less expensive than a Myles Garrett trade. You're not having to give up a first-round pick for Cooper Kupp. Yeah, he's had injury situations the last couple of years. He hasn't played. The only season that he's played all the games since 2019 is 2021. So the injuries are a legitimate concern. What are your thoughts on Cooper Kupp as a player here?
Obviously a little bit like washed is a concern. It's really just an injury thing at this point. 9 games in 2022, 12 games in 2023, 12 games in 2024. So from a yards per game sort of perspective, he's been pacing for over 1,000 yards this year, last year, the year before. He had 19, almost 2,000 receiving, 145 catches, 1,947 yards, and 16 touchdowns in 2021. One of the greatest receiving seasons ever. And then just has not been able to stay on the field. And Matt Stafford has really developed a chemistry with, Puka Nacua, which I think has hurt Kupp's looks as well, even just in like target share and things like that. So, my thoughts are, I think Cooper Kupp still is good. I think if he is a primary option and is healthy, he's still a 1,200-yard guy, and is talented. But is he healthy, right? And he also the factor here, we can go ahead and ask the question so that we can and move this kind of along before our end of show topic. But the question that we were going to ask is, who would you rather target in a trade, Myles Garrett or Cooper Kupp? And for me, it has to be Myles Garrett. And I didn't think that's where I was going to go, because I don't think Kupp costs you a lot. I think it's like a day 3 pick. I think you can get Cooper Kupp like a 4th rounder. With his lack of production over the last 2-3 years because of the injuries, with his age, with his contract, draft capital is not going to be a thing. I don't think you're giving up much draft capital at all. But Cooper Kupp's cap hit is $29.78 million in 2025.
Now the Rams would have some of that.
The Rams have a good chunk of that. So you're paying him about 20 if you are the Titans. He's got a 12.5 base salary and a roster bonus of 7.5. So you'd pay him about 20 if you were the Titans or a team trading for him, and about 20 next year as well. I'm not paying $20 million to a guy that I don't trust can stay on the field. So as intriguing as I find Cooper Kupp is like a talent, right? Because I think he can complement an offense in a lot of interesting ways. I don't think you're getting an elite player by any means at this stage in his career. And if you're making if you're targeting a player in a trade, I want the elite talent at an elite position.
Yeah, but if you're talking about, like, the Titans have 2 4th-round picks this year, do you think what are the Titans going to get? Pick 119?
It's the $20 million more to me.
But okay, but the Titans are okay in that spot. Like, here's another hypothetical. If the Titans have a rookie quarterback,
I guess
Cooper Kupp makes that rookie quarterback better. He makes their life easier because he wins early and you can throw that early, which is something that Brian Callahan said all last offseason that Will Levis is incapable of doing unless it's a deep shot. And I think Cooper Kupp, Calvin Ridley complement one another well. As underneath and deep, you've got quickness and speed with both those guys. I think that makes more sense than giving up what you're talking about.
Because I was really hung up on the cap thing, but I guess you do have cap space. It's a short-term deal. And I don't believe the money is very much not guaranteed. All that there is none of the 2026 money is guaranteed. So it could always just be a 1-year deal. If he's hurt, then you lost money this year. But
I think he makes a rookie quarterback's life easier. He's also, we'll talk about this tomorrow, but Matt Stafford could be a Titans quarterback option. And would you want to bring in Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp together?
Yes.
And so, and on the is he healthy thing, he missed 5 games this year overall, but they were basically bracketing the end of September. It was like he missed like the last 2 games of September and the first 3 games of October. And then from Halloween on, he played everything, including playing in the snow in Philadelphia in the playoff game where he had 5 catches for 61 yards in a blizzard on 7 targets. So like he ended healthy and helped the Rams get into the playoffs. So like I think I would do Cooper Kupp for pick.
I'd be
119.
I think you talked me into Cooper Kupp on a trade, like a trade for Cooper Kupp. If it's a 4, you can trade 119 and get Cooper Kupp. It fixes your immediate need for like a second receiver this year. You still need some depth, but
but you can. But now the whole. How do you build the rest of the depth? The NWI, I still think you bring him back because you just have 3 receivers. If it's Ridley, Kupp, and NWI, you still need a young guy that can run.
You draft a guy.
Draft one of your Senior Bowl bros.
Yeah, maybe.
So I would take Cooper Kupp over Myles Garrett.
I agree.
I'm glad we can be on the same page. If you want to throw shade, if you have shade to throw, something to get off your chest, let's do it. Throwing shade to wrap up this Tuesday. Shout out Wilson County Hyundai, wilsoncountyhyundai.com. Make them a part of your new car buying process. Go see them in Lebanon or online, wilsoncountyhyundai.com. Say hey to Pain Bone for us. They'll set you up with a new ride. Shade time, shade time, shade time. Who are you going to throw shade to? Ocho says, who's going to throw to these old-ass wide receivers? Well, I just said a rookie quarterback or Matt Stafford in this situation. And we'll talk about, I think Easton, Sam, and I came up with 5 veteran quarterback options that we will discuss on the show.
I think we'll talk more tomorrow. I think that world is not impossible.
Oh.
Like that world where Matt Stafford is the Titans quarterback and Cooper Kupp finds his way onto this team might be a lot more likely than people realize, or a lot more possible at least. So we'll talk more tomorrow. But
shade on the show. Denise says shade on the Mavs for how they treat Luka and Jason Kidd. Rashid says shade on the Mavs. Caps says shade on that trade scenario. There's a couple shades that I don't really know the full story on, but they're kind of like concerned. Jeff says throwing shade at ex-husbands who tell their ex-wife to drop dead, which leads to calling 911. I don't know if that's a news story out there or if that's somebody that Jeff knows personally. But yeah, that's not a good situation whatsoever. Then there's throwing shade at the New Orleans Saints for covering up some interesting, not great things with the Catholic diocese down there in New Orleans.
Great
overall.
shade.
Shade on Punxsutawney Phil?
Yeah.
Is that where you were going to go?
No, but that SOB's given us 6 weeks of winter.
He's not deciding this, guys.
Yeah, allegedly.
It's not Punxsutawney. Punxsutawney Phil is not in charge of the seasons.
He's on the hot seat.
Oh, you're gonna fire Punxsutawney Phil?
We should.
You know what they should do?
Punxsutawney Phil he's bad vibes.
If I were Punxsutawney Phil, I would jockey to have Groundhog's Day be 3 weeks later. Because he's like, man, I got to keep going out here and telling these people that it's going to be cold for 6 more weeks. Like, it's February 2nd. It's going to be winter for 6 more weeks.
You could lie.
Yo, you want the groundhog to lie to you?
Dog, if Punxsutawney Phil lied and was like, hey, spring's coming.
What shadow?
We'd be fired up. We'd be like, let's go, Phil. Every year, Phil could deliver us good news. And when Phil was wrong, we wouldn't blame Phil. We'd be like, global warming. Got us again. Like the weather.
Lucas says, it's the halfway point, Austin. Okay, what happens with the second half? You don't just get to have half of winter and then spring happen. Like, that's not how the halfway point works. If I were Punxsutawney Phil, like, let's do this thing like post Valentine's Day at the very least. Like, give me 12 more days to better project that spring might come early.
Let Punxsutawney Phil sit on the Super Bowl winner a little bit. Like, let him digest the Super Bowl and then make him do it.
Randy says, shade to my wife's coworker.
Punxsutawney Phil is stressed.
Punxsutawney Pete.
Punxsutawney Phil is stressed right now. His birds are in the Super Bowl.
Is he an Eagles fan or is he a Steelers fan?
I think he's an Eagles fan.
I don't know where that city lands.
He's a real SOB, so he's got to be an Eagles fan.
What?
He's kind of a jerk.
Oh, man. It's the halfway point. I know it's the halfway point of winter. Quan says, shade on Austin's hairline. My hairline's been like this for my entire life. This is just what my hairline is. So thanks. Sam, you had a pet peeve. You had a pet peeve that
I will say shout out to didn't know if I wanted to bring this up, but I will because somebody else did first. Somebody said it in the chat, but quick shade to the Recording Academy. Beyonce winning album of the year was crazy. Billie Eilish deserved that. Let's be honest.
Did she win country album of the year or
country album of the year and album of the year?
Oh, should they make it like the MVP and the offensive player of the year? That if you win the album of the year,
it's not a good album.
I don't know. I don't listen to
music.
It's
fine. But
so again, my point is like, if you win the album of the year, should you then be removed from consideration for the underneath awards?
That's an interesting question.
Like Aaron Rodgers won the MVP, so they gave the offensive player of the year to Derrick Henry when he had 2,000 yards.
I'm not sure what the criteria is for album of the year and if it changes at all. Because that would be interesting, right? Like, okay. So I mean, I don't know. Billie Eilish should have won that award. I'm a little upset about I don't watch the Grammys because I get
it would be
frustrated.
disrespectful if, like, to the other players, if Lamar Jackson won the MVP and also won the offensive player of the year. It's like, okay, like you've already accomplished that. Like, let's acknowledge somebody else, right?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Like, yeah, obviously, if you're the album of the year, you're going to be.
Yeah, we know you're the album of the year, which would have.
You're going to be the rap album of the year. Duh, you're going to be the blanket. Like
Yeah,
obviously,
you're going to sweep all the ones underneath. So why not just recognize somebody else, right?
I agree. Okay, so that was number one. That was a quick one. Here's the real thing. Well, oh, side note, shade to me because I've been watching Severance and I've just been like burning up a lot of time at night. Been staying up too late watching Severance. Third one, I got to shame the sports world. And frankly, I didn't want to have to do this today, but I have to shame the chat again. Shade on the chat. Because I heard about the results yesterday of what the conversation was. And immediately after the Luka trade, I'm going online and I'm seeing like the sports world knows what it was like to be a Titans fan when they traded AJ Brown. It's not the same. It's not even close. They're not even in remotely the same conversation. It's not. It's T-ball to the major leagues in terms of how bad and shocking these trades are. Why are we comparing them? Why are we trying to compare it to the AJ Brown trade?
Because it's relatable to the audience that we're talking to.
No, I'm not asking you that. I'm just asking. I'm asking. Like, I mean,
no, I think because everybody
from your perspective.
No, the answer is it's human nature to find something to relate that to.
It upset me. It upset me in a big way. It's not even close to the same trade, to the same magnitude, to the same quality of a player, to being so lopsided. Crazy. And I was shocked to hear that 60% of the people watching the show yesterday with you and Zach thought that the AJ Brown trade was worse.
Again, we know the results from the last 3 years of the AJ trade, and it's garbage.
It doesn't matter. There's garbage trades that happen all the time. This was
it is one of the worst trades in the NFL in history. It is.
I disagree.
I mean, it's one of the worst trades in NFL history.
But it was a bad deal for the Titans. The Titans lost the trade because they missed on the draft pick.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, they missed on everything outside of Roger McCreary.
I mean, but like the 49ers traded multiple first-round picks to go up and draft Trey Lance.
Oh, like, that is arguably the worst, but it's being covered up by Brock Purdy.
Sean Watson.
No, again, as one of the like ever. The trade and the contract were individual.
Sure. They give up 3 firsts for Deshaun Watson.
and then they signed him to a $238 million, 100% guaranteed contract.
There is a reason that the Luka Doncic trade, the reaction I sat on my phone for 45 minutes waiting for the Shams tweet that said I was hacked, right? And everybody was that way. Devin Booker says Luka Garza. Like, people are beside themselves at the fact that this can't be real because it is one of the most I will say this. Since I've been a sports fan, it's the worst trade that's ever happened. And I don't care about the results because the results don't matter.
The Deshaun Watson trade is
the results don't matter. Because the results don't matter for the Mavericks. Because it is the process in which this happened.
And this is something that we can talk about off air because it is complete conspiracy theory that has very little backing of but there is a theory on this move that is the biggest chess, not checkers move I have ever heard of. If this is the motivation, and it resolves around sports gambling in Texas.
Yeah. I mean, I have seen I mean, I've seen a lot of different stuff. I mean, I tweeted out yesterday because I was just getting so mad. I kept scrolling, people being like, well, Luka doesn't condition. Luka's fat. Luka weighs 270 pounds. Like, the best player in the world isn't like a 310-pound Serbian dude that hates basketball and doesn't run. Like, and he's the best player in the world.
Like Luka's not that. Luka's the ball runs through Luka. Like he had, like, that's
it runs through Jokic too.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
Jokic
he's not. But not like
his
the
usage
offense.
rate. You look, Jokic
The offense runs through Jokic, but it's different than the ball running through Luka.
The point is Luka, like, he plays, right? Like he scores.
I think there's a justification, and I had said this to Zach yesterday, and I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole, but $400 million is the super max contract the Mavs are about to have to give Luka, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now that's justified because of the generational Hall of Fame player that he is at 25.
Yeah.
But the idea of somebody that you already know has a conditioning / work ethic / training concern, giving them $400 million of guaranteed money, what does that do to their motivation? Nothing. That's more of a demotivator.
Okay. I mean, to me, it's just,
if you already have to kick him in the ass to get him to work, then giving him $400 million guaranteed, what's he going to do?
It's shocking too if you go and look at Nico Harrison's, like, there was a press conference 2 weeks ago. He did an interview where he was talking about how the value that Luka brings into the Dallas Mavericks is invaluable, and that there is nothing back that they could get in a trade that would, like, and I'm like, this is 2 weeks before, like, it really is the most, like, conspiracy theory level trade because of how little sense it makes for Dallas. And so I just got a little bit annoyed by that. Was
that your pet peeve, Shade, that you talked about yesterday?
Yes. Okay. It vexed me dearly that I was sitting there scrolling online and I was having to read about, like, well, now everybody understands how Titans fans feel. It's like, guys, this is not the same thing. This is not the same thing. This would be like if the Chiefs 2 years ago just traded Patrick Mahomes and we're like, yeah, we'll take Aaron Rodgers. Like,
Aaron Rodgers.
Not even, but like, yeah. I mean, yeah, because I think Rodgers is a decent comparison.
No, because Anthony Davis is not a quarterback type role player.
No,
that's
why.
You're right. That's why I said Lamar Jackson, Myles Garrett.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. So it'd be like, but it would be like
Joe Burrow, Myles Garrett
is a quarterback type role, and so it's like trading your Patrick Mahomes, your
Josh Allen for Joey Bosa.
Right now, yeah, it would be like right now trading Josh Allen
in the same conference,
but not even Joey Bosa. Like, again, it's like Joey Bosa is better than Anthony Davis is right now.
Still,
you would just be like,
Josh Allen for Harold Landry. I'm kidding. Titans fans, sign me up.
I mean,
the Titans would love to be the Lakers.
You would just be like, what on earth is happening right now? Yeah. And like so this is in a league of its own.
Yeah. My shade is, the most understood first world problem shade. I'm aware of this, but I order my grocery, like the big grocery orders. I order what? You got some? Is it you making fun of me?
You're Mr. Grocery guy, order my own grocery guy.
Yeah, the big orders, I order them on an app and have them delivered to my house. I cannot stand when I get shoppers that constantly message me through the app about preferences and do you want this or that? Like, do these blueberries look better than these blueberries? I don't want to sit here and live chat with you. That's not saving me any time.
Yeah, you're like, I would have gone to the store.
I would have gone to the store. I like, do the blueberries look good? If they don't, tell me. I appreciate when they say, hey, these look bad. I'm not going to get them. Cool. Thank you. If something's out, that's fine. I have pre-lined up backups. And if it's not there, then refund it. But I'm trying to save time by ordering my groceries. You messaging me like 27 times during a grocery order is costing me now more time. So that happened yesterday.
I think that's a fair shade. I think that's a fair gripe to have.
Yes. All right. That's it for us on this Tuesday. Make sure that you hit that like button. You subscribe to the channel. We'll be back tomorrow morning to talk more veteran quarterbacks. Buck is live tonight for A to Z Sports Prime Time. Sam's taking over on Wednesday night this week for Prime Time. So we'll catch you tomorrow morning. Easton and I talking vet quarterbacks for the Titans in the morning. More content, A to Z Sports.com/Titans. And we'll see you later on. Appreciate it as always. Stay fly.